cats, cops, and C4. It was a dark night in the city of Centris, the kind of darkness that Cenk Barnabas monologued as Linda exited the second-hand store. The fact that they were a couple only encouraged her employers, and where they went, Vera was sure to follow. "Please not now, Cenk," Linda says, and he starts to follow. Bad news? Only what I feared. The resale store here is a front for the Shroud's operations. They're not legally required to gain identification from people who sell them things beyond specific items, such as weapons and personal communicators. As such, they simply don't, and use this place as a legal laundering point for stolen merchandise, all above board and legitimate. Why is it always something like the Shadow, the Shroud, or the Unknowables? I get that a lot of these criminal bosses like to stay hidden, but rather than advertise their hiding, they could instead at least try to leave a false trail. Such as? Imagine if they went by the nickname The Spider, but it's a Lopin or an Apuk. Their nickname alone would be a powerful defense in court, and that's if we weren't sent on the completely wrong trail by it to begin with. Of all things to focus on, it's on the tentative nickname of an up-and-coming underworld boss? Really? Linda asks him as they approach their air car. Well, think about it. If it is their nickname, then they're clearly comfortable being called the Shroud. Which tells us precisely nothing, Linda counters. Stick to chemical analysis and forensics, okay? You're not a trained psychologist or sociologist. Fair point. Oh, can I also be armed backup? I hear I'm pretty good at that too, Cenk asks cheekily, and Linda sighs. How is it that you seem to grow both more and less mature by the day? We met when there was a big problem, so I was very much on the job. Now I'm more relaxed. And a new crime lord rising up isn't cause for concern? If there is a new crime lord rising up, big if, I may not be a sociologist, but I can't think of a better way to pretend to be a victim than to make up an attacker and blame all my wrongdoings on them. It's a sleazy move, but it would be a smart one. Why would I, an honest resale merchant, be peddling stolen goods? The wicked Shroud forced me to. And of course I don't know who they are. They're the Shroud, Cenk explains, and Linda pauses for a moment. That's not a bad observation, Linda notes. Not that we shouldn't be examining the possibilities, but we also need to be on the watch for it just being a smokescreen, Cenk adds. What's a smokescreen? Vera asks as they round the corner. Why are you sitting on the car? Linda asks, and the Takra slips off the top of the air car and tosses another fried bit of something into her mouth. It was warm, she replies simply. So what about a smokescreen? The reseller of definitely stolen things, but you can't prove it, is apparently working for the Shroud, the Shroud is an up-and-coming force in the criminal world. Numerous privately owned stores and businesses all have their symbol and a hefty chunk of the profit margin being taken, Linda states. What's the symbol of the Shroud? Vera asks curiously. A black hooded jacket hanging from the wall. I have a black hooded jacket as part of my civilian wear. Should I get it? We could call it a coincidental disguise and see what some people confess, Cenk asks in an amused tone. Look, you've made it clear that you don't believe me, but doesn't matter if I believe you. We're a team. We're in this together, Cenk replies, and Vera lets out a purr. Daw, isn't it sweet? Still, he's right. I got nothing better to do. He's getting paid either way, and so are you. So why not? If you're wrong, then you've confirmed it's just a bunch of sleaze bags. But if you're right, if I'm right, then we have someone with a major stable of thieves and fences is moving up in the criminal world. This may be lower priority, but just because people haven't been assaulted or killed doesn't mean this is acceptable, Linda says as she opens the driver's side door while Cenk slips into the front passenger seat and Vera slinks into the back and then loudly crunches the small fried shellfish. So, where to next? This is your patrol, I'm just the deputy at this point, he asks, and Linda considers. I have a contact, shifty piece of work, but too cowardly to get involved in the really bad things. Oh, all right. Do you want me to stay in the car? You? No, she's a piece of work, but Vera's going to need to keep some distance. Oh, little lady too scared of a takra, Vera teases and Linda nods. Something like that. Linda answers as she pulls out of her parking spot and there's a buzz from Cenk's communicator. He answers it and lets out a heh of contentment. Something good happen? My people sent out a relief fleet some weeks ago to a world in wild space called Lakran, so the failed colony has finally had its rescue, about 1,000 years too late, but their descendants are finally being brought back up to the galactic standards. 1,000? Why would it take that long to send rescue to a colony? Linda asks. Not sure, but it is pretty far off the beaten path, so it could have simply been lost track of as well. Well, you did say wild space. Most people sent out there are basically considered to be on their own. Frontier space is a week, if not further away from any kind of help. Distant space is days away, and prosperous space is hours at most. Linda notes. Some places have exile to wild space as a form of punishment. It's considered more civilized than public execution. Guess they're too soft to consider roughing it in the woods as a way of life, Vera says with a bit of a laugh. I'm going to chalk this up to cognitive dissonance. I crawled out of cruel space, so wild space seems downright luxurious. Cenk notes even as Linda merges with the traffic proper and begins her trip in a slow and safe spiral pattern downwards. Maya haha. Yes, it would, wouldn't it? Also, I've been watching your training. Most people would consider that torture. Weapons that kick back used for hours on end. Brutal physical exercise without pause. You were there with me in the gym. You weren't watching. You were spotting. Cenk replies and Vera huffs. Spotting? I was working myself up for an ambush in the showers. Well, that explains all the scratches along his back, Linda notes. The fact you know about them says just as much about me putting them there. Vera purrs and Linda scoffs. Why are you driving so slow anyways? This is boring. Basic training says to treat every other driver as if they're under the influence of a frenzy patch and with damaged sensors. That's a lot more polite than my own training taught me, Cenk remarks. Morale? Basically treat everyone as if they're completely stupid and their controls don't work. He finishes and Vera laughs. I like yours more, Vera says as they descend more and more levels. It takes only a little while for Linda to even out and pull out of the main road and begin a very slow patrol around. There she is. Vera, stay in the car. We don't want to scare her. Cenk, you're with me. She'll be distracted by your pheromones. Hopefully, distraction is all you're going to need, Cenk remarks as he looks up and down the dingy-looking apartment complex. I don't see anyone. Where is she? She ducked out of sight, but I saw her. Stupid girl's too proud to do anything about her silhouette, Linda says as she pulls in on a mid-level parking area. I suppose I could finish my snack and have a nap. You two try not to have too much fun without me, Vera says as she takes another obnoxiously loud bite of her snack. What are those anyways? Cenk asks, leaning back a bit. Mine, Vera says and hisses at him a little. He rolls his eyes, then pulls an axiom to move. She blocks his grab and shifts until she's body blocking it. Mine! How old are you? Linda demands. All right, serious face on, Cenk says, rising out of the air car as Vera scoffs down her snack even faster. You know, I was just teasing, right, little kitty? My plan was to feed it to you myself after getting a good look. Well, in that case, Vera says, turning, and Cenk instantly grabs one of them and starts bringing it into his mouth. Hey! He flicks the snack into her open mouth and she pauses and bites down with a sulky look. Got you, kitty. He gives her hair a rustle with his other hand and smells the fingers he used to grab the food. Something to look into. If you're done, Linda asks him. Yeah, sorry, Cenk says. All told, it takes them both just a few minutes to enter the building and climb up 2 levels to an apartment. So, what are we looking at anyways? Who is your contact? Well, when I've been saying she and her, Linda begins before the door is wrenched open, and Cenk finds himself staring eye to eye with a young Carib man whose right antler has been broken off entirely. Are you stupid or something? Get out of sight. He hisses, grabbing Cenk's shirt and pulling, but his hooves slide on the carpet and he falls to the ground in the attempt. He scrambles up and hides back in his apartment. Oh, this is going to be memorable, Cenk says with a big smile as he steps into the apartment. Argus, calm down, Linda says. Oh, no, I know how this works. You ask questions and I give answers, and then someone angry shows up in a few days and I end up with half my rack chopped off. That's not what happened, and you know it, Argus, Linda counters. Do you live alone here? I thought all men got snapped up right away, and Cenk asks, looking around the small, dingy apartment. It's generally easier when your wives don't form a criminal gang and you get pressed until they all end up in jail, Argus snaps. That had nothing to do with me, Argus, or anyone of my division. Linda replies as she enters the apartment and closes the door behind her. She presses a few buttons on what looks like a burglar alarm on the wall, and Argus's body language just shifts from agitated to calm. All right, the field's up. You can stop playing now. You wouldn't have brought this guy over if he wasn't clear. Who are you? Argus asks in a calm and considering tone. Specialist Cenk Barnabas. I'm with the Undaunted and on loan to Linda's division. From the looks of it, you're more than on loan to the division. Heck, congratulations, girl. I'd offer you a drink, but I got nothing you like, Argus says, and Cenk's mind is whirling as he tries to make complete sense of things. So, why the panicking snitch routine? Even if you're friendly to us in truth, being seen as scared and easily pressed won't make others trust you, Cenk asks. Maybe not among humans. But the poor bullied little Caribs clearly needs comfort and relief, and nothing makes a big bad criminal girl feel good about herself than waving some high-value chips at some poor boy they can have fun with but don't need to commit to, Argus explains. And that gets them talking. But surely people would notice a pattern of those that comfort you getting screwed over. And what about your wives? What wives? Besides, I never volunteer new information. That's the deal. I only confirm or deny. Argus remarks, and Cenk outright pauses before tapping at his chin in thought. Good setup, isn't it? Gives me friends on all sides, no commitments and tons of profit. What's that phrase carnivores use? Pure gravy? That is a lot of upside. Not how I do things, but damn if it doesn't make sense, Cenk concedes. Thank you. Now what's this about, officer? Argus asks, and Linda holds up her communicator with the image of a hooded black jacket on a wall. A coat? The same kind of garment on no less than 6 different businesses, all of them reputedly working in a legally gray area, but not enough for us to really slam down on. All of them with a new investor that takes a fair chunk off the bottom line. This is the work of the Shroud, isn't it? Linda asks, and Argus draws himself up before his antlers flare with axiom. The stump on the right side of his face and the 4-point left rack glow for a moment. We're not being observed through axiom, which is the only reason I'll tell you even this much. Drop the lead. Let it go, and don't pull any further. This is dangerous. The Shroud does not want to be disturbed. That was a yes, Cenk mutters to himself, and Argus gives him a dirty look. I'm serious, human. This is for your own safety. You may be scary in a straight-up fight and all but immune to most poisons and null, but that doesn't mean you're immune to consequences. The Shroud wants money and doesn't care how they get it. Don't provoke a fight, Argus warns him, which is a confirmation that they're up to more than moving the occasional stolen product or laundering money, Linda says sadly. You need to leave now, Argus says as he power walks to his front door. Both of you out. Nope. No way, I'm not telling you anything at all. Just get out before you get all three of us killed. They both leave without a word, and Argus slams his door shut behind him, and there's the distinct sound of an entire series of locks being used. Neither say a thing until they enter the car and Vera starts waking up. What? I just fell asleep. Well, we apparently stepped in it. The Shroud is not only real, but real enough to scare Linda's friend. Apparently. I have a report I need to write and a few more questions to ask. But this is definitely the start of something. Oh, that's going to be fun then. I wonder what will happen this time. An army of assassins? Another big stompy robot? Oh, I know. We'll have to fight a starfighter while on foot.